Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. My name is Liel and I'm the CEO and co-founder of DA Imaging Analysis, provider of FDA and CE cleared AI-based ultrasound solution. With our AI-based technology, we teach computers to think like an expert ultrasound users and to imitate the way the human eye identify borders and motion. I'm very excited to host this webinar together with our partner, IBM Watson Health Imaging. During the webinar, you can submit your questions using the chat box. And joining us today are leading cardiologists from top medical facilities who will share their perspective on the use of AI in the Echo Lab. Just a few words about DIA's Elvivo AI-based solution. DIA Elvivo solution is offered on the IBM imaging marketplace. Our solutions are running automatically behind the scenes on every echo exam. Once the echo views are acquired and downloaded to the PACS system, Elvivo automatically selects the best 4-chamber and 2-chamber views, analyze those views, and once the user opens the exam from any PACS system, a second caption of those 2 views immediately appears with result including end-diastolic volume, end-systolic volume, ejection fraction, biplan, and GLS. Also the LV border detection in motion. In the future, we plan to add our FDA and CE cleared solution additional, including Elvivo strain, automatic evaluation of the segmental and global LV strain from the 3 apical views, as you can see here on the screens. All of our solutions are vendor neutral and cross-platform and can work on any image fully automatically. We are planning to add our Elvivo segmental wall motion evaluation, which is automatic wall motion evaluation of the 17 muscle segments from the 3 apical views. Again, as you can see here on the screen, everything is being done automatically with the bullseye diagram, vendor neutral cross-platform in seconds. In addition, we're going to add our Elvivo right ventricle, which we just got an FDA and CE approval. It's automatic right ventricle evaluation, including fractional area change, free wall strain, and TAPSY. So without further delay, let's introduce our panelists. Noah, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Liel. My name is Liel, professor of cardiology at the Ben-Gurion University of the Negev in Beersheba, Israel. Until recently, I was the head of the echocardiography unit at Soroka Medical Center, where it all began, as the thesis of Michal Yacobi, then a student doing her master's degree in electrical engineering, and now the CTO of DIA. I'm happy to be here with you today and to moderate our webinar. Please, Dr. Goldman.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marty Goldman. I'm very honored to be here with Steve Feinstein, who's one of the founders of the whole field of contrast echocardiography. Noah, who's been a pioneer in artificial intelligence and echocardiography. I'm currently the Dr. Arthur and Hilda Master Professor of Medicine, Vice Chair of Cardiology, and Program Director the Cardiovascular Institute, Mount Sinai, New York City. I'm really very pleased and honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Feinstein, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Noah. Glad to be with you, Marty. I echo Marty's sentiments. This is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to show advances in echocardiography, automation, quantification, and reliability. This will be a great presentation. Technology is moving fast forward. Currently, I'm a professor of medicine and cardiology at Rush University Medical Center.
Thank you, and thank you, Liel, for the introduction. I'd like to start with a question for Dr. Goldman. What do you think is the current role of AI-driven applications in the Echo Lab?
Thank you. This is a very exciting new field, which has the potential to really revolutionize the way we perform and quantify echocardiography and deliver a really full package of automation for our cardiologists, the sonographers, medical residents, and fellows. The auto-quantification of left ventricular ejection fraction and strain, again, has the potential to level the playing field. We have tremendous variation in subjectivity in reading and even where is the endocardial border. So having an automated, artificially intelligence, quantifiable, defined ejection fraction as well as strain has the potential to really change the way we do echocardiography. It eliminates the subjectivity as well as, to a certain degree, the varying skill in acquisition of sonographers as well as physicians. But very exciting is having a partner with IBM Watson, who's renowned worldwide for its computing strength. And now that it's entered into a medical field and working with DIA in developing a product for cardiology is an extraordinarily exciting breakthrough for us in cardiology. So I think it's a very exciting day, and I'm looking forward to this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. I agree that a fully automatic, reliable tool calculating EF from DICOM clips helps a lot. Dr. Feinstein, from your experience, what do you think has changed regarding physician echocardiographers' acceptance of AI?
Thank you very much, Noah, Marty. Let me just reiterate what you were saying. The software we're talking about is fully automated. You do not place markers on the screen at the apex or the annulus. It is without human touch, so it's remarkable advance. Now, I would say acceptance comes from the needs. Quantitative measurements are required. We need to do excellent measurements serially in patients who have, let's say, left ventricular ejection fraction abnormalities, be they oncology patients or heart failure. We need to be accurate and precise, and we need to do this serially. Their therapy matters upon this. Now, IBM Marketplace AI and DIA Imaging have an FDA-approved, validated software that allows us to do automated ejection fraction, wall motion, and even strain imaging. We'll get back to strain and reimbursement in a minute. But these measurements allow us to get a second opinion. This means instead of conferring with one of our colleagues, we actually can rely upon the software to say to us, here is the reliable measurement we would make. So it's a very useful second opinion in the echo lab for us. Now, as I said, AI is gaining acceptance. We know that, and certainly in radiology and now in cardiology. The other advantage that we have in the echo lab is the software we're going to be using is vendor neutral. So we are not relying on a single machine or a single product. This software will actually measure these measurements in echo equipments that we use in our lab. The last issue that we're often asked is reimbursement. And I would remind everyone too that we are reimbursed today for strain imaging.
So speaking of strain reimbursement, here's an example of DIA's strain analysis. How does AI help you to reimburse strain ultrasound analysis?
I think what you can see here is, again, this is an automated presentation, and the ability to apply this takes seconds. I think this was in real time, probably 1 to 2 seconds to perform the analysis. You can see the device touching it, and the analysis is almost instantaneous. And the strain imaging then is displayed in the bottom. This is a remarkable tool, and today it is reimbursed.
Thank you, Dr. Feinstein. I could also testify from my own personal experience using DIA's AI solutions that at first I was skeptical. But the more I used it in my workflow, the more I trusted it and encouraged others in the Echo Lab, fellows as well as echocardiographers, to consult with this tool as they would consult with a colleague, just like you were saying. Dr. Goldman, how do you actually choose which AI solutions to add to your tools?
Yeah, that's a great question because there are several different options out there now. I think accuracy. I think it's very important to have a system that you know is going to be accurate, that the number they deliver is going to be accurate quantification. Seamless integration, as Steve was talking about, it does everything behind the scenes. It can select the images. It can then present it literally within seconds, and you can see where the tracing is. The fact that it's automatic and you can see and determine, do you agree with the endocardial tracing or not? And it does have the option for manual correction as well, though in the studies that we've done, we haven't used manual correction. We wanted to use the completely automated information. I think it improves speed and workflow. It takes time to do quantification measuring in biplane for ejection fraction, and certainly takes time to measure in 3 different planes for strain. So having this time saving is very significant for the sonographer as well as physician. The fact that it is relatively low cost compared to a system, and because it can work on all platforms and be integrated into the systems themselves or to the PAC system, is very good. And I think that what you'd also want to look at in any vendor is who they're working with. The fact that IBM is a partner is a very powerful statement. I'm sure that they looked at many different opportunities, and the fact that they chose this one, I think, is a credit and reflects the fact that it is accurate, seamless integration, and can work on all platforms. Any DICOM image is accessible to DIA platform to be able to give a very accurate ejection fraction in biplane as well as strain. So what we did, this abstract talks about a study that we did that was presented already. We wanted to determine how accurate the Elvivo by DIA was, which again, when we first saw it, was relatively new. And though it was documented by comparing it to multiple sonographers' ejection fraction, the gold standard in cardiology is cardiac MRI. So we took 111 patients who had varying ejection fractions, varying left ventricular function, and compared it to CMR in a blinded fashion. And the R-squared correlation of all comers was 0.75. The R-squared was close to 0.9. Really a remarkable correlation, as you can see from the 2 curves. We can look at the 2 curves. The orange is in those patients who had a higher ejection fraction, lower ejection fraction. It really didn't make a difference. And when we took those images that we thought were very high quality, the correlation was even higher. So we were very, very pleased to have an automatic, unretouched, very, very rapid quantification artificial intelligence, which we demonstrated to correlate very, very highly with the gold standard CMR.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman, for this important input. And Dr. Feinstein, what do you think is the added value of AI for each stakeholder?
Thank you, Noah. At Rush, we are very close to finally concluding an agreement with IBM, Marketplace AI, and DIA to implement this in all of our reading stations. The advantage will be, as we said earlier, this gives us an expert opinion or a second opinion. But the true advantage really is for educational components to our fellows and our sonographers. The ability to rapidly, reliably, and as Marty demonstrated, accurately and serially give measurements of ejection, wall motion, and strain is a remarkable teaching tool. The fellows can access this at any time, as well as the sonographers. An additional component is that many of us have satellite installations, or maybe a physician or a sonographer who is skilled, or a novice sonographer or a novice fellow are out there, and a second opinion will be readily available to them, as well as calling into us. So I think this really adds great value. And I would add one other additional comment, that ultrasound at bedside now, particularly with the virus, is a tremendous tool. Patients don't necessarily now have to be transported through the hospital to the CT suite or the MR suite. And we can actually do quick quantitative serial measurements at bedside. And many times a physician may not be there to interpret it. So this is a wonderful additional tool.
Thank you, Dr. Feinstein. And here is a question I've heard many times from colleagues in the cardiology department. Dr. Goldman, should AI be applied on any echo image quality? Can AI overcome the expression garbage in, garbage out?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, if we look across all echocardiograms, we probably have a number that are really excellent. We have some in which, like this one, we don't see the endocardial border that well, and we have some which we can hardly see see the heart through a snowstorm. And what's very nice, if you look at these images, is that the endocardial border may be difficult to see, but DIA, using its artificial intelligence, can actually trace the borders automatically. And then we, as the interpreter, can determine whether those border designations are accurate or not. So that's very, very helpful in salvaging a technically difficult echo. And again, as Dr. Feinstein alluded to, it may be that there are remote labs where the sonographers are not as experienced. It may be that the physician only reads echocardiograms at the end of the day, and needing an ejection fraction quantification immediately can be provided by this solution, not waiting till the end of the day for the echocardiogram to be read. Think about this in the emergency room. Think about this in critical care, that you don't need to have it officially interpreted by a cardiologist. You get the information immediately. This is a really nice example where the endocardial border may not be well seen and you are able to see the borders. And here again, by seeing the tracings coming on almost immediately, you can determine, do I agree with it? Do I disagree with it? And in rare circumstances, even do, manual correction to really improve what you think should be the accurate quantification. And just as quick as you saw in this example, where the endocardial borders are not well seen, it's providing ejection fraction as well as longitudinal strain. So I think a very nice example of salvaging technically difficult echocardiograms to increase the yield of readable, translatable into clinical management solutions.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. And I'd like to ask now Dr. Feinstein, to what extent do you think AI would impact echocardiographers' decisions? How do you visualize it in the next few years?
Thank you very much. As Marty said, this automated software will be implemented within our reading systems. It'll be transparent. It'll be simply an add-on that we don't have to search for. So it will provide us a second opinion as we're reading the echoes without causing additional time or offline analysis. It'll be a huge boon to all of us. So that's the immediate gain. The longer term, we want to reduce the variability in our measurements. We want people to rely on our ultrasound images, and we want to compete squarely with other 3D modalities such as MR, CT, and PET. And we want echo to continue to advance through the 2D into 3D and to contrast enhanced ultrasound to make this a most reliable, portable, and permanent technique.
Thank you, Dr. Feinstein. The last question I'd like to refer to DIA's CEO, Hila Goldman Aslan. We spoke about how AI can help cardiologists, but as AI providers, how do you make sure that the AI solution is accurate?
Yeah, we are being asked this question a lot. So our ultimate goal is to build an AI-based application that mimics the way the eye of an expert ultrasound user look at those images. For that, we need a sufficient amount of representative and accurate data from you guys, the sonographers and the echocardiographers. But most important thing that we do in DIA is make sure that our engineers and data scientists understand the clinical aspect of those developed applications. They actually must understand the data acquisition and data interpretation process even to a level where they can interpret the image by themselves. So I think eventually it's a win-win situation.
Thanks, Hila. And to summarize, we have learned that echocardiographers are more open to AI-driven tools now than in the past. The tools are more widely used and accepted. AI is helpful for sonographers and fellows by supporting their training, decisions, and saving their time. However, it will not replace our work, but it is becoming another essential instrument in our toolbox. Thank you, Dr. Goldman and Dr. Feinstein. Thank you, Hila from DIA, and thank you to IBM for co-hosting this event. It was a great session. Thank you for everyone who attended.